lights are always shining bright there in New York. It's so nice this time of year with all the holiday decorations. Good morning. You're watching Fox and Friends First on this Thursday morning. I'm Abby Hunts.
And I'm Heather Childers. Thank you so much, as always, for starting your day with us. And we do begin with a Fox News alert. A brand new twist in the alleged Russia election hacking. New claims Vladimir Putin was directly involved and that Donald Trump knew all about it.
Now outrage is boiling over after an intelligence briefing gets canceled.
Peter Ducey live from Washington, D.C. with more on this. Good morning, Peter.
Good morning. The House Intelligence Committee had to cancel a behind-closed-doors meeting about alleged Russian interference in the recent election because nobody from the CIA wanted to come and brief members. And this comes as top Trump advisors are accusing some lawmakers of spinning intelligence they've heard already behind closed doors to score political points.
You had a closed-door House Intelligence Committee briefing, and no sooner did people walk out, apparently, than some folks were talking to the media. That's unfortunate, and at some level, maybe not in this instance, Megan, but at some point it could put all of us at risk. And for what purpose? To politicize or to curry favor with the mainstream media? None of that is worth leaking secrets.
As it turns out, voters don't buy into reports that the CIA concluded that Russia actually impacted the election. 59% of voters in a new Fox News poll don't think that Russian interference had any impact on the election. Less than a third, 32%, think that some interference helped Donald Trump, and 1% say it could have helped Hillary Clinton. But the White House thinks Mr. Trump has actually been egging on Russian hackers.
Republican nominee himself calling on Russia to hack his opponent. It might be an indication that he was obviously aware and concluded, based on whatever facts or sources he had available to him, that Russia was involved.
The chairman of the House Intelligence Committee now says it's unacceptable the CIA won't send anyone to brief lawmakers about cyber attacks today, but the director of national intelligence says that lawmakers have been getting regular briefings about this for months. Back to you in New York.
All right, thanks, Peter. Interesting, 59%.
Yeah, we're going to talk more about those polls coming up a little bit later in the show, so stay tuned for that. Thank you, Peter. Well, House Intelligence Chairman Devin Nunes slamming the CIA for skipping out on the briefing, and he's not the only one. Stephen Hayes, editor-in-chief of the Weekly Standard, says Republicans are fed up with the interworkings of the Obama administration.
I think the context here is that you've seen in the minds of many Republicans, including many on the oversight committees, a politicization of intelligence over the years, particularly at the CIA throughout the Obama administration. If you look back at the kinds of intelligence product that the CIA was providing to the president, it was consistent with what the president wanted to be true, particularly with respect to Al-Qaeda, ISIS, the war on terror. So they were providing intelligence product that was fit to match with the president's ideological conclusions. The concern is that that's what's taking place again here. And I think if the CIA or people at the CIA are going to be leaking these kinds of accusations, they have an obligation to go before the congressional oversight committees and explain themselves.
So let's keep talking about this. Do you think that Russia interfered with the election, and does it even matter? Join a live debate on our Facebook page right after the show. #KeepTalking.
Also new overnight, President Obama refusing to sign off on sanctions against the most terror-friendly country in the world. The decades-old legislation against Iran was renewed at midnight even without the president's signature. The White House arguing the move would upset Iran, undermining that controversial nuclear agreement, which President-elect Trump strongly opposes.
Well, it turns out the Muslim teen who claimed that a trio of Trump supporters called her a terrorist and attacked her on a New York City subway lied. The NYPD now arresting and charging her with making a phony report. The made-up attack was detailed on Facebook, blaming President-elect Trump for promoting Islamophobia. When confronted by police, she caved in and said that she made the whole thing up for attention.
Well, a judge has declared a mistrial in a dramatic murder-for-hire case out of Florida. Dalia DiPolito now on house arrest and will head for a third trial after a jury couldn't agree on a verdict split 3-3. DiPolito is accused of hiring a hitman to kill her husband, but that would-be killer, an undercover cop.
Already, I'm positive, like 5,000% sure.
DiPolito claiming that was all an act for a reality TV show. Prosecutors are promising to take her back to court. Her defense team says they look forward to that.
It's incredibly surprising that happened. Well, like father, like son, the father who sparked national outrage saying that his son was too rich to know the difference between right and wrong, well, he's now in his own trouble. Fred Couch just sentenced to probation after pretending to be a police officer during a fight with a neighbor. His son, Ethan Couch, known as the affluenza teen, was 16 when he was slapped on the wrist for killing 4 people in a drunk driving crash back in 2013.
That family never ends. Now to a breaking Fox Business alert. 1 billion users' accounts stolen in what could be the biggest hack ever.
So let's get right to Cheryl Casoni from our Fox Business channel. Cheryl, big trouble for Yahoo, and not the first time.
That is absolutely right, ladies. Good morning. 1 billion accounts compromised in this latest breach, according to Yahoo, including 150,000 government and military employees. A massive amount this breach is by any standard, and it could be the biggest hack ever. Now, here's the statement from Yahoo's Chief Information Security Officer, Bob Lord. Quote, an unauthorized third party in August of 2013 stole data associated with more than 1 billion user accounts. The stolen information did not include passwords in clear text, payment card data, or bank account information. The data stolen, though, includes phone numbers, birth dates, and security questions, with the hack possibly taking place, again, back in August of 2013. News of this breach sending shares of Yahoo down about 2.5% in after-hours trading on Wednesday. This is more bad news, guys, for Yahoo. They're in the middle of a sale to Verizon. So in a separate incident disclosed back in September, 500 million Yahoo accounts were compromised. Security experts say that consumers need to be diligent when it comes to their online lives.
You should have different passwords for every account that you have. There should be no throwaway password you use as routine for every account, and a lot of people do, unfortunately.
Well, Yahoo is currently in the process of notifying potentially affected users. You probably, if you're in the group, got an email last night, we should say. They do want to secure those accounts. They're working on it, guys. Another example of the war between companies and hackers, and in the middle of that, our personal information. So this story really is to be continued. Back to you.
And with those passwords, don't use something that's too personal, because all the information that's available about you, they can look that up, like a pet name, that kind of thing.
New reality. Thank you, Cheryl.
You bet.
All right, well, the happiest place on earth being slammed with a massive discrimination lawsuit. Former Disney employees, they say they were forced to train their replacements from India, then fired. The 30 tech employees also claimed they were told they wouldn't receive severance if they didn't do that training. Disney is calling the lawsuit complete nonsense and vowing to fight it.
Well, the president-elect sitting down with top Silicon Valley leaders as the tech industry tries to reboot its relationship with Mr. Trump, but notably missing Twitter. Politico reporting that it's because the company refused to make custom crooked Hillary emojis during the election, but Mr. Trump's team firing back. Well, another transition team member saying that Twitter wasn't invited because it's not big enough. Well, she already has a seat, speaking of seats at the table, at the boardroom table, but now reports are circulating that Ivanka Trump will be taking over the White House office reserved for the First Lady. The Trump campaign shooting down those reports, saying that no decisions have been made about Ivanka's involvement. And this is also coming after the future First Lady, Melania Trump, announced that she and her son, Barron, would not be moving to the White House until the end of the school year. That's so he can stay here and finish that out.
Well, Kanye West got more than just a photo op during his visit to Trump Tower. The rapper walking away with this souvenir. It's an autographed copy of the president-elect's Time Person of the Year cover. Mr. Trump writing to Kanye, "You are a great friend. Thanks." Well, the rapper tweeting it out to his nearly 27 million followers.
Well, the time now is about 9 minutes after the top of the hour, and the PC police, they strike again, saying, "So long, Santa," even thinking about serving Christmas tree cookies. Well, the university that is taking the holiday out of parties.
And shaking things up in the White House press corps, why this room is going to look a little bit different when Mr. Trump takes office.
And the world's most powerful people, can you guess who tops the list?
But first, a look at the weather across the country, and it is a cold one out there today. Welcome back to Fox and Friends First. Just 35 days now until the inauguration and the Trump administration beginning to take shape. Look, just 2 cabinet positions left. And up next, the Supreme Court. The president-elect expected to nominate a justice almost immediately. Jackie Ibanez here now with what we can expect on that. Jackie, good morning.
Hi, good morning, Abby. Well, new year, new president, new face on the Supreme Court. Mr. Trump not expected to waste any time nominating a justice. On the campaign trail, he announced a list of 21 conservatives on his short list for the job. But according to a senior advisor, he's now whittling that down.
Are we going to get originalists on the court?
Yes, so that's one of the first things that's going to happen is, we're going through the cabinet process right now, but next is Supreme Court. Right. He has a list of 20 judges. We worked with the Federal Society.
He's down to 4, he already told me.
Yep, and we've got it down to just a few, and the names are names that people are going to love who believe the Constitution should be interpreted as it was intended.
The president-elect's nomination will solidify a conservative majority on the Supreme Court. Since Justice Antonin Scalia's death last February, the court has been operating with a 4-4 split. President Obama nominated Judge Merrick Garland to replace Justice Scalia, but the Senate refused to vote on a confirmation there. President-elect Trump has said his choice will be very pro-Second Amendment and anti-abortion. Heather?
All right, Jackie Ibanez live for us. Thank you, Jackie. Well, the new Supreme Court isn't the only big shakeup coming to Washington. Incoming Chief of Staff Reince Priebus says the White House press corps should also expect some big changes.
Even looking at things like the daily White House briefing from the press secretary, I mean, there's a lot of different ways that things can be done. I can assure you that change is going to happen.
Priebus also mentioned addressing assigned seating at those briefings, but didn't outline any specific changes.
All right, listen to this story. This bench honoring our veterans sparking outrage this morning. Why? Because it has the word God on it. The American Atheist Legal Center says the memorial in Oil City, Pennsylvania, violates the Establishment Clause of the Constitution. The controversy is all over a quote by William Penn, the founder of Pennsylvania, reading this: "If we will not be governed by God, we must be governed by tyrants." A nonprofit group says they will fight to keep the bench free of charge. Then there's this. Now the phrase holiday party is offensive, according to a college sparking outrage for asking students and staff not to use words like Christmas or holiday. Apparently they are too politically correct, or they're not politically correct enough. Instead, Texas Women's University in Denton says use the words like end of semester or end of fiscal year on party invites. Other tips: no red and green sugar cookies, Santa symbols, Christmas trees, or Rudolph.
End of fiscal year. What if it isn't the end of the year party? Well, now to your health and a possible breakthrough in the cause of autism. Researchers found that women who had low vitamin D levels when they were 20 weeks pregnant were more likely to have an autistic child. Other research has shown that the vitamin is key for brain development. Most prenatal vitamins include vitamin D, but experts say that they might not contain enough. Well, do you think that this is the key to happiness? Yes, he is. Santa Claus will be coming very soon. So have you been naughty or have you been nice?
Next week. I can't believe that.
A live shot outside of our studios here, Avenue of the Americas in New York City. Good morning to you. You're watching Fox and Friends First. I'm Heather Childers.
Good morning. I'm Abby Huntsman. It's currently 31 after the hour. And we do begin with that Fox News alert and a brand new twist in the allegations that Russia hacked the election. New claims that Vladimir Putin was directly involved and that Donald Trump knew about it all along.
And now the outrage is boiling over after an intelligence briefing gets canceled. Peter Ducey live from Washington, D.C. with more on this. Good morning, Peter.
Good morning. It's hard to have a briefing about CIA conclusions regarding cyber attacks if nobody from the CIA wants to actually come to the briefing. But that's why the House Intelligence Committee had to cancel a behind-closed-doors meeting today about cyber attacks. And now the House Intelligence Committee Chairman Devin Nunes, a Republican, says this, quote, "It is unacceptable that the intelligence community directors would not fulfill the House Intelligence Committee's request to be briefed on the cyber attacks that occurred during the presidential campaign. Our panel has been vigorously looking into reports of cyber attacks during the election campaign, and we want to clarify press reports that the CIA has a new assessment that it has not shared with us." Another Republican congressman now, Peter King from New York, has a warning for whoever is going public with privately shared intel about the election.
This violates all protocols, and it's almost as if people in the intelligence community are carrying out a disinformation campaign against the president-elect of the United States. It's absolutely disgraceful, and if they're not doing it, then it must be someone in the House or the Senate who's leaking false information, and there should be a full investigation of this.
Meanwhile, at the White House yesterday, Press Secretary Josh Earnest accused the president-elect Donald Trump of essentially egging on Russian hackers during the campaign, although Earnest stopped short of saying that he thinks hackers are actually the reason that Mr. Trump won the election. Back to you in New York.
All right, Peter Ducey, live for us. Thank you, Peter. Always great to have him here. Well, some brand new Fox News polls giving us a closer look at how people feel about Russia's attempt to influence the election. And here with a closer look, breaking it all down for us, President and partner at Maslansky and Partners, Lee Carter. Thank you for being here.
Good morning.
Have we seen you since the election?
We have,
all
but
right.
Just that week.
But these are the first polls that we know about how people are feeling since then, right?
Yeah, and it's fascinating. People are excited and optimistic, and it's not necessarily what you're seeing in the mainstream media.
Well, let's take a look at that first poll. This is Russia's attempts to influence 2016. Who did that help, the presidential election? Was it Donald Trump? Well, 32% think that. Hillary Clinton, just 1%. But not impacting it at all, 59%.
And I think this is a really important thing for people to notice, is that 59%, that's well more than half folks do think that it did not impact the election.
But not if you listen to mainstream media or watch them.
That's right. And this whole Russia influence is going to be Donald Trump's the version of Hillary Clinton's emails. It's going to plague him. People are going to be talking about this, and it's because they were so shocked at the election outcome that they needed to explain it somehow. And this is how people are explaining it, and they're going to keep coming at it. There's not yet real evidence that Donald Trump knew, and I think that it's really important that everybody remember that most people don't feel that this had an impact on the election outcome.
And that relates possibly to this next poll where people are hopeful now. This describes the election outcome feelings. 59% hopeful, 50% are relieved. They're just glad it's over. 45% embarrassed, 43% excited. Then you have empowered, scared, angry, and depressed at the very bottom there, 30%.
So you can see here, most people actually are more on the positive emotion side. They're optimistic, they're hopeful, they're relieved. But the thing is, there are some people that are angry, embarrassed, etc. Now, what's so important, Republicans have to remember that they need to bring these people along because they are, in many ways, angry and scared. And when that happens, people are emotional, can't necessarily make rational decisions. And so I think Republicans are going to have to make emotional appeals to these folks that's going to make them trust that things are going in the right direction. But we're already seeing a big shift in how people are feeling before the election and after the election. Many more people are coming along on the Trump train, so to speak, getting excited, getting enthusiastic, really liking some of the moves that he's making, whether it's the technology summit, the CEO summit. Some of his picks are going a long way to reassure.
And the cross-section of people coming into and out of Trump Tower and then going directly to the people with this thank you tour, I'm sure making a difference.
That's right. This thank you tour is something that, even though a lot of people are covering it as a victory tour, it is making people excited, optimistic. It is reminding people that Donald Trump committed to being the president for all Americans, going out there, not stopping once he was elected. A lot of people, a lot of candidates have then gone, I got elected, now I'm going to focus on the White House in D.C. And he's saying, no, I'm going to go out there and be with the people. That's what this is all about.
Because he knows that it's the people who got him elected. Also going directly to them on things like Twitter to let them know what's going on first, sometimes before the media.
That's right.
All right, finally, Donald Trump's dealings with, okay? Do you think he was too accommodating with Russia? 50% say yes. Too confrontational with China, 43%.
Now, I think this is fascinating how people are feeling about how he's dealing with Russia. Only 50% is half the people feel like he's too accommodating with Russia, but that means that half the people feel that he's doing the right thing by Russia. And so we have to keep in mind, despite all the coverage that people are so concerned about how we're dealing with Russia, most people actually are okay with how he's dealing with it and moving forward. And just remember, he's not even in power yet. Let's give the man a chance. But I do think that we're seeing this real shift that people are starting to come, people that were really opposed to Donald Trump are starting to come around. And I think we're going to see as he moves forward, they're going to be more and more comfortable and many people excited about him.
Speaking of moving forward, our last poll here, yes, believe Trump will, repeal Obamacare. Start with that 68% believe that he will do that. Revise some trade deals, big on the campaign trail. 62% say that he'll do that. Reduce corruption, deport illegals, also big on the campaign trail. 39% say he'll stick with that, and then you saw 34% with build a wall.
And I think the administration or the transition team should feel really encouraged because people are believing that he's going to do what he says and say what he means. So this is something that's really, really important. This is going to go a long way to the trust in the president that people believe he's going to do what he's promised. And oftentimes what happens is a lot of people love election promises and all of that, but they feel like they're not going to live up to them. Donald Trump has already acted. He's been doing things about the jobs, economy. People are really excited about what he's been doing so far. This is a very encouraging number, and I think we're going to continue to see a lot more momentum towards Donald Trump.
He said last night, jobs, jobs, jobs. That's what he's going to focus on. Thank you so much, Lee.
Great to be here.
Great to have you here.
Thanks so much.
We'll have you back. Abby?
All right, thank you, ladies. So maybe this is why she lost the election. Hillary Clinton's campaign reportedly ignored warning signs from her ground team in Michigan. Politico reporting staffers at the Clinton headquarters were convinced that she would win the state by 5 points over Donald Trump. They were so confident they tossed voter information right in the garbage. Of course, they were wrong, and Mr. Trump ended up winning that state. And the ladies of The View still refusing to accept the results of the election.
Yes, we are free. Free to try a MyPillow in 10-degree weather outside. That's America, ladies and gentlemen.
We live in a great country. That's a beautiful shot of 6th Avenue, which heads right up into Central Park. You saw the American flag there. And it is Thursday, which means you only have one more alarm clock.
Oh, wait a minute. You're leaving something out. Today is our Christmas party. We're having a Christmas party today, a holiday party for some at a nearby bowling alley.
That's right.
As we
I was
have
hoping
done
for karaoke, but we're doing bowling instead.
You can do bowling. You can sing along.
All right, I'll sing while you bowl. Now, because I can't do either one. What about your jersey? Did you bring that? He has, you know, the bowling jersey that has Steve, his name written on it.
Brian has one too, somewhere.
Right. I put it in my own Hall of Fame. I have my own Hall of Fame, so I framed it, and I visit it every day.
All right.
Every day.
Every day.
So anyway, we're excited because it's Thursday. It's our Christmas party. Plus, we've got a great lineup. Kellyanne Conway, special advisor to President-elect Trump, is going to be joining us. Also, Senator Joe Manchin. There's a real struggle over whether or not he's going to remain a Democrat in the Senate. We're going to talk to him about that.
He always says, if I want to reach my constituents, he goes, I got to hop on Fox News. And he said, you know, when he wanted, he was really disenchanted with his party. So you know what happened? The White House stopped talking to him. So for 8 years, there was no contact. This president, there's a president-elect who called him right away.
All right, we also have Rob O'Neill, who's going to be joining us this morning, and the star of the show right there, Patton. This could be Donald Trump's dog, the future first dog, right there in our green room.
Yeah, I think it's Barron's pick. If Barron has his way,
I don't blame him.
There will be a golden doodle in the White House.
Look at his personality.
That woman lives near Donald Trump down by Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach, and she has contacted Donald, sent him a picture. He showed it to Barron. Barron loved the dog. What's going to happen next? Because every White House family always has a dog. We'll talk to them coming up very shortly.
All right. The president-elect continuing his thank you tour today after sitting down with top tech bosses.
That's right. Silicon Valley trying to hit the reset button with Mr. Trump, but missing at the table, Twitter. Where was @Jack?
Yeah, and where are the smiles? Peter Ducey is live in Washington, D.C. with the details. Hey, Peter.
Hey, guys. Up on the 25th floor of Trump Tower in New York yesterday, the president-elect was trying to figure out ways for tech companies to make more money here in the States. And even though the president-elect has called out some of the companies that these CEOs run in the last few months, like Apple, who he thinks should have helped the FBI unlock the San Bernardino terrorist's iPhone, or Amazon, who he says has an antitrust problem, he was very complimentary.
There's nobody like you in the world. There's nobody like the people in this room. And anything we can do to help this go along, and we're going to be there for you. And you'll call my people, you'll call me. It doesn't make any difference. We have no formal chain of command around here.
There is a lot of buzz about why Mr. Trump did not invite the company that helps him reach millions of people for free every day. That's Twitter. A month-old blog post from a member of Trump's digital team has surfaced where this person complains that the social media site banned a crooked Hillary emoji during a debate. But the Trump team later clarified they just don't think Twitter is big enough to sit at the table with Facebook and Tesla. And reports are that meetings like that one are going to keep happening down here in D.C., organized again by Mr. Trump's son-in-law and top advisor, Jared Kushner. Back to you in New York.
All right, Peter, thank you very much. You know what's interesting about Donald Trump? Usually after people are elected president of the United States, they surround themselves with people who help get them to the White House. Donald Trump was in that room. The only friendly faces were Mike Pence and his family, because everybody else around that table voted for Hillary Clinton and raised a lot of money for Hillary.
It's going to be interesting because they have a different view on immigration. We actually need more. We need more engineers. We need a lot of these exchange students to stay here after we educate them in places like Stanford and the Ivies and all these great colleges that we have. So I wonder if they were able to voice their opinion, to have their voice heard when it comes to immigration.
Well, technology is so big now. You have to hear their voices. And, you know, it reminds me of Ronald Reagan. People compared Ronald Reagan to Donald Trump because he had so many friends on the other side of the aisle. And I feel like Donald Trump is trying to bring everyone in and trying to say, all right, I want to hear your opinion. I want to hear your opinion, and I want to hear your opinion from all different walks of life that represent industries here in America, so that he can then take that assessment into the White House and have a better idea of what folks need.
That's right, because it's all about jobs, and he wants high-tech jobs here in this country. Meanwhile, let's talk a little bit about this. The guy who runs the House Intelligence Committee, Devin Nunes, sent a letter to the CIA, the FBI, and all the intel community and said, hey, been reading a lot in the paper about how Russia threw the election toward Donald Trump. So let's come on up to Capitol Hill and let's talk about it. Well, yesterday, all those intel community agencies said, you know what, we're busy. We can't come, which is really curious given the fact how much they have been leaking in some cases.
Now, think about this. They said they're not going to come and address the House Intelligence Committee, which I don't think has really ever happened before that I can remember. When you're requested, you should come. Number two, the excuse they gave. President Obama's asked for a review. We're focusing on that. Really? Good. So the House doesn't matter? The people's voice doesn't count? And they just want to know, last time that James Clapper, the Director of National Intelligence, spoke in mid-November, he said that he didn't know where these hacks came from. Why all of a sudden did momentum change over the weekend and we have a total new view of what happened with the election?
So you have folks that are in the intelligence community saying Russia was involved in this election. You have House members that are saying, if that's the case, the CIA, because FBI and the DNI are not on the same page. So you've got all these agencies that represent the intel community. They're not on the same page. The House members are saying, if this is true, if Russia did hack, we want to bring you guys in. We want to hear your evidence. But they're saying, we're not going to provide people. Does that lead you to believe because they don't have the facts? Well, they don't have the information?
Here's the thing, Ainsley. If the CIA found something earth-shattering, they would have an obligation to come and present it to the American people. But they're not showing up. Josh Earnest, however, who is so very partisan there at the podium at the White House, he said clearly Donald Trump was involved. He's blaming Trump and the Russians and everybody else. Watch.
The Republican nominee himself calling on Russia to hack his opponent. It might be an indication that he was obviously aware and concluded, based on whatever facts or sources he had available to him, that Russia was involved. The Republican nominee chose a campaign chair that had extensive, lucrative, personal financial ties to the Kremlin. And it was obvious to those who were covering the race that the hack and leak strategy that had been operationalized was not being equally applied to the two parties.
I don't remember this ever happening when you had a press secretary for an outgoing administration going after the president-elect. And by the way, I asked him, he's been asked many times, Donald, which he's referring to the fact that Donald Trump was asked at a press conference about that, about leaks or hacks with when it comes to Hillary Clinton. He says, I don't know if Russia's behind it, but I'll tell you what, if you are behind it, can we get the 30,000 emails that you illegally deleted from your files and never handed over? It was a sarcastic remark who the President of the United States and Josh Earnest both took as factual.
I agree with you. Josh Earnest is saying, if Donald Trump is calling for an investigation, that means he knows that Russia was involved. No, Donald Trump, in my opinion, is saying if Russia was involved, we want to know. Let's get to the bottom of it. So let's have a briefing.
Well, you know, when you look at what he said he might be, might know. There's a lot we don't know, and yet Josh Earnest, as many Democrats, is trying to discredit Donald Trump. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to muddy the waters before the electors vote on December the 19th. Peter King says, look, if somebody is leaking false information against the president-elect, there's got to be an investigation. Watch.
This violates all protocols, and it's almost as if people in the intelligence community are carrying out a disinformation campaign against the president-elect of the United States. It's absolutely disgraceful. And if they're not doing it, then it must be someone in the House or the Senate who's leaking false information. And there should be a full investigation of this.
Donald Trump's been very complimentary towards the current president after they never really met each other, but were ripping each other in the worst way possible personally for the past 5 years. I think this is truly going to jeopardize the relationships. It's going to cause some friction between the administrations and bring us right back into the sewer. The President of the United States pushing that. Josh Earnest is pushing that narrative. Totally irresponsible.
A lot of allegations without the facts. People just can't accept the election results.
See, I think Donald Trump's going to rise above the shabbiness. I think, look, the Democrats are grasping at straws. Donald Trump, though, from his 26th floor, I hope, just doesn't pay any attention to it. But once again, it's all about trying to create a mess before the electors vote. And there are all these stories about how these electors are going to flip and stuff like that.
Why are you laughing? Do you have a fever? What? Has Donald Trump ever ducked from a fight? If he feels he's being called out immorally and wrongly.
I think he realizes he's now part of that special presidential club. I think he will have his surrogates do the attacking. I don't think he's going to do it on this. I could be wrong.
101 or 102?
It's pretty high.
You never know. I'm just excited about Bolin. All right. Meanwhile, we have some breaking news on this Thursday. A dangerous inmate is on the loose, and Heather has got the very latest on manhunt.
Yeah, good morning. We're talking about Fayetteville, North Carolina, and so folks will be on the lookout there. A massive manhunt is intensifying in that area for an escaped inmate who's believed to be armed and, quote, very dangerous. Police in Fayetteville say that this man, Edward Moore Jr., was being treated at a hospital when he assaulted an officer, swiped that officer's taser, and then escaped through the front door. He then stole a car and drove off. That car was later found. But Moore, a convicted bank robber, is still on the run at this hour. So many military families in that community. This guy, better look out. Well, that Muslim teenager, remember her? She claimed that 3 drunk Trump supporters called her a terrorist and attacked her on a New York City subway. It turns out she lied about it. According to sources, the NYPD arrested her and has now charged her with filing a false police report. The 18-year-old woman described the made-up attack on Facebook, blaming President-elect Trump for promoting what she called Islamophobia. But when questioned by cops, she reportedly said she had been out drinking and made that story up to distract her angry father. And it is now legal to get high in the state of Massachusetts. As of midnight, people 21 and older are allowed to carry 1 ounce of pot with them. They're also allowed to grow up to 6 plants at home. But people still can't buy that drug legally yet. It'll be at least another year before the state changes its retail licenses. And D.C. now, she already has a seat at the table, and now reports are circulating that Ivanka Trump will be taking over the White House office traditionally reserved for the First Lady. The Trump campaign shooting down these reports, say no decisions have been made about Ivanka's involvement, at least not yet. This comes after the future First Lady, Melania Trump, announced that she and her son Barron would not move to the White House until the end of the school year. And those are your headlines. So we'll see what kind of role Ivanka has. Interesting, though.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, thank you.
President-elect Donald Trump predicting a bright future.
We're going to win so much. You're going to go to Paul Ryan. You're going to go, Mr. Speaker, please, please. We can't stand winning this much.
But do the American people see the same thing? The brand new dials just in.
And this is what hard work looks like. Meet the Chick-fil-A worker in a sling and a neck brace, still ringing up customers. There's an incredible story behind the picture, and find out how you can help.
President-elect Donald Trump continuing his thank you tour across the country. But how is his post-election message really resonating with you, the American? Here to break it all down, President and partner at Maslansky and Partners is Lee Carter. Hey, Lee.
Hey, great to be back.
You. Yes, welcome back. You were here like every day during the election.
Yeah.
You had a little time off. Welcome
back.
All right, he's on the Thank You America tour. Let's talk about some of the things that he said during the tour. The first one, he said, you got to hire American, you got to buy American. Listen to this and then watch the dials. Watch the independents in particular.
And we're going to put our people back to work in the process. It's time to help get Americans off of welfare and back into the labor market. Building this country with American hands and with American workers. My administration will follow two simple rules. Buy American and hire American, right? We're going to do it.
So, Lee, how'd it do?
You can see there, independents, Republicans gave this an A+, Democrats a C. Independents continue to track with Donald Trump's message on jobs, on the economy. People are so encouraged right now based on the actions, based on Carrier, even IBM announcing that they're going to add 25,000 jobs. It is a message that is resonating, and even Democrats are coming around.
He announced that Rex Tillerson is going to be Secretary of State this week. Listen to what he said about Rex, and then we're going to talk about it.
Today I announced my plans to nominate Rex Tillerson, right? The Chief Executive Officer and Chairman of ExxonMobil, to be the next Secretary of State. Rex is one of the greatest and most skilled global business leaders of our time. Made some of the greatest deals ever made in the oil industry or any industry. A great diplomat, a strong man, a tough man.
All right, Lee, what's the grade?
So you can see Republicans a B+, Independents a C, Democrats an F. People want more information about who he is and what he's going to do.
A line that he keeps saying that everyone loves, you're going to get tired of winning. Listen to this and watch the dials.
We're going to win a lot. We're going to win so much, you're going to go to Paul Ryan, you're going to go, Mr. Speaker, please, please, we can't stand winning this much. We can't take it. And he's going to come to see me and he's going to, Mr. President, the people in Wisconsin are tired of winning so much. You're winning with health care. We're winning on the border. We're winning with ISIS because we are going to get ISIS out.
Lee.
So you can see Republicans a B, Independents a C, Democrats a D.
I don't understand why Democrats wouldn't want to win, but all right.
A little bit too braggy for him.
Got it. Got it. Thank you so much. Great to see you, Lee.
Great to be here.
One more day until the weekend. All right, next on the rundown, the president making a few last-minute power grabs, and it's good news for Planned Parenthood. Plus, the president-elect's pick for Secretary of State set to face an uphill confirmation battle. Our next guest knows a thing or two about oil executives because he ran Shell Oil. And he knows Tillerson well. What Jim Hofmeister has to say about Mr. Trump's pick coming up next. Hey, Jim, come in.
All right, we've got some quick Thursday morning headlines for you directly from President Obama's desk. First, a last-minute power grab. States forced to provide funding for the nation's #1 abortion provider, which is, of course, Planned Parenthood. The rule will go into effect just 2 days before Donald Trump's inauguration. And nothing says America like the bald eagle, but President Obama is okay with killing them. The Obama administration also passing a rule protecting wind companies from federal fines, even if thousands of bald eagles are killed by flying into the high-speed blades. All right, there you go. Some of the news. Now, here's Brian.
All right, President-elect Donald Trump's pick for Secretary of State is fueling some criticism and some praise. Leaders on both sides of the aisle are a little doubtful about him, calling out Rex Tillerson's ties to Russia as a potential problem. But our next guest says ExxonMobil CEO is the perfect choice for chief diplomat. Former Shell Oil President John Hofmeister joins us now. He knows Rex Tillerson personally and knows his world that he was in and is about to get in. First off, John, the guy you know, the Rex you know, tell us about him.
Well, he's a very experienced individual, been all over the world, worked in many different functions of ExxonMobil. And if you rise to the top of a company like ExxonMobil, you have competed against your peer group for decades. And he was ultimately selected to follow Lee Raymond. And as far as I can tell, he's done a very good job running one of the most complex, sophisticated, and technical companies in the world.
You also told me something I did not know. When you run a company, a worldwide power play like Exxon, you visit the State Department a lot. You get to know these people.
Well, you're an American company, and you're an American citizen. Don't you want your government to know what you're doing? Don't you want that government's help and assistance when you're operating abroad? The answer is yes. I had a secret clearance when I was at Shell. That was so that I could deal with the issues that I would have to deal with, and I'm sure other chief executives of other American companies have similar clearance so that they can work with the U.S. government. The U.S. government is their enabler oftentimes. Sometimes we'll intervene on their behalf. And this is not an unfamiliar relationship between the U.S. government and top executives of U.S. companies.
That's why so many people really took note when Jim Baker, former Secretary of State, Condoleezza Rice, former Secretary of State, and Bob Gates, former Secretary of Defense, and everything else, about 9 different presidents, said this would be a great pick for you. He actually brought it up. They brought it up to Donald Trump. Here are some critics on both sides of the aisle, though. John, watch this.
I'm concerned about his relationship with Vladimir Putin. Vladimir Putin is a thug, a murderer, a KGB guy who only wants to restore the Russian Empire.
I am concerned about his relationship with Russia. We want to make sure that the Secretary of State is a person who represents America.
And Marco Rubio had similar sentiments. Your thoughts?
Well, of course, they may have concerns. That's why we have a vetting process. Let Rex come and explain and characterize and describe what he's done over the years. You don't make friends in the oil and gas business. You make associates. You make relationships. Those have to be functioning relationships in order to satisfy the needs of all parties. If ExxonMobil doesn't do a good deal, ExxonMobil is going to be very unhappy. If the Russians or the Equatorial Guineans or if any other country where someone's operating don't get a good deal, they're not going to be happy either.
Let me just bring up some things that have been chronicled about his past. Maybe you could shed some light on them. You mentioned that small country in Africa, Equatorial Guinea. Evidently, this corrupt family is only sustained by the oil deal that Exxon cut. A lot of the people are angry that Exxon cut that deal. He did that deal.
There are multiple deals in Equatorial Guinea among many different companies. I don't think a company that operates in Equatorial Guinea is responsible for the actions of the family, of the first family.
In Venezuela, he refused to deal with Hugo Chavez when he tried to nationalize Exxon. He actually took him to court, won, but they lost a lot of money. He says he learned from that.
Right. You had your assets being taken away. All the money that you have spent, it's being taken away by state control. Yes, you're going to fight something like that. ExxonMobil was not the only company that fought Chavez in Venezuela over the legal issues.
You always have said to me, we have no energy plan. We need someone with an energy plan. On the day of the election, you bet on Trump. You voted for Clinton in 2008. You wanted her to get the nomination, and you voted for Trump on day one. Do you sense he's got this plan?
Not yet. It takes time to make a plan. I teach such planning at 3 universities, and it takes time, it takes patience, and you've got to look beyond your term in office. If you're going to have an energy plan, it's got to cover decades, not just your term in office. And that's what we've been missing in this country ever since we've been vulnerable to foreign imports.
Yeah, all of the above is really none of the above.
John, it's a slogan. Thank you.
Thanks so much for coming in. I appreciate your insight as we get to know more about the man who might be our next Secretary of State.
The Republican nominee himself calling on Russia to hack his opponent. It might be an indication that he was obviously aware and concluded, based on whatever facts or sources he had available to him, that Russia was involved.
The White House suggesting Mr. Trump knew that Russia was involved, but our next guest claims they had nothing to do with it. Here to explain is Fox News senior judicial analyst, Judge Andrew Napolitano.
I hope that Josh Earnest was as much in jest in what he just said as Donald Trump was when he said during the campaign, do all the hacking you want. No one could have taken that.
He said, hey, Russia, go find the 30,000 emails that she deleted.
Correct.
That's what he said.
Correct. Look, who had an incentive to prevent Mrs. Clinton from becoming president of the United States?
Bill?
Whose agents had their real identities and locations exposed by the reckless manner
U.S.
in which
Intel?
There you go. Who had access to all of this material
U.S. Intel.
without having to steal any codes? United States intelligence agents who did not want this woman in charge of the federal government and exposing more agents and resources and undercover assets in the Middle East to who they truly are and where they were.
What about the Daily Mail story, Judge, about how WikiLeaks wound up with the Hillary email? They say it wasn't a hacker. It was an inside leaker, somebody from inside somewhere who gave the guy the Hillary emails in a park and says, doesn't know whether or not Russia hacked. However, WikiLeaks got him in a park in Washington, D.C., from an insider.
Whatever you think of Julian Assange, Brian and I have gone back and forth as to whether he's a patriot or whether he's a goat. He revealed truthful information. No one's denying that the stuff that he revealed was real. That's his version of where this information came from, and now there's corroboration for it. Look, there's one spy agency, the NSA. It produces the raw data. The FBI looks at it, interprets it one way. The CIA looks at it, interprets it another way. The CIA may have a desire to make Mrs. Clinton look good or Donald Trump look bad.
Wait, politics?
They're right. Their boss is a Barack Obama appointee. The FBI may have a desire to say, there's just not enough evidence here for us to point a finger at Moscow.
Joe, yes, Judge, I don't know why I called you Joe. That's kind of an interesting thing.
That is the least offensive thing you've ever called.
That's true. That's true. Well, let's scroll at the end of the show. So if you look at what the New York Times, the president, in 2005, the leading Republican, let alone be facing off with Hillary Clinton.
Look, there's a whole world out there that is below the fold, below the radar scope that we don't know about, which is the intelligence community. They have rivalries between them. They have ideological predilections. They have the same shortcomings as the rest of us. And intelligence, raw data, if it were here, it'd be difficult for the four of us to interpret it. But I can tell you this, two groups or two people looking at the same data can read the same thing and interpret it 180 degrees differently from each other. That's what happened here. So when Donald Trump says the Russians did not hack Mrs. Clinton, he's right. Somebody leaked from Mrs. Clinton's emails, but nobody went in there and altered her operational systems, which is what hacking does. If you want to change the outcome of an election, are you going to alter the candidates' operating systems, or are you going to alter the systems of the people who register the voters and count the votes?
So she has no one to blame but herself, because it was just leaked. Her emails were leaked.
She should have been blaming herself for a long time, from the minute she decided to use the homebrew server.
2 weeks ago, the National Intelligence Director couldn't definitively say anything.
Judge, you got some good sources.
Pleasure. Thank you. Kilmeade, stay away from that Madison stuff, would you?
Absolutely.
Madison Avenue is talking about.
And James Madison. All right, let me tell you this. President-elect Donald Trump's cabinet is filling up. So who will get the final few jobs? We're asking Kellyanne Conway. Will she answer? Stay tuned.